Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanjeev Jagtap, and I'm here to talk about Content Moderator, which is a cognitive services product. And we'll talk about content moderation a lot, actually, here. So let's get started. We have a lot of things to cover. So when I was, working on this deck a couple of nights back, we've all heard the term content is king. So I was curious, actually, where this term comes from, because, after all, the reason we're talking about moderation is because we have voluminous content all around us. And so I searched online, and the answer was really surprising. So go ahead, if you are online right now, maybe try taking a guess and submitting your answers as to who is credited with coining this term. And so take a couple of seconds and then search and see if you got it right. But I'll go ahead and forward. And so what I found was, surprisingly enough, that the content is king term phrase was actually coined by Bill Gates, and no pun intended, because he was talking about monetization of content, way back in '96. There was an article that was published on the Microsoft website. And so I thought that was really interesting. And then I was testing my colleagues here, and they had no clue either, some of them. And so I thought that was a really interesting tidbit. So the reason why we're talking about moderation today is that if we fast forward to the present case, we find content everywhere. And so from your point of view, as you kind of evaluate whether you need content moderation, whether you need to be concerned about the content that your applications and systems are using, right? What are the typical use cases that we see around us, that we see based on our customers, applying moderation to their business? And so a first example is user-created assets. This is kind of a broad category where your users could be creating, let's say, product profiles, user profiles, partner profiles, think marketplaces, e-commerce websites, or just repositories or content directories, including gaming assets, right? And designers creating these assets online. The other part is social sharing, right? So we of course know about Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, which are creating massive business models just based on the social sharing of content. This is an interesting category because as AI is coming in, as we are training machines to interact in place of humans with humans, what's happening is these machines are being trained, these models are being trained by a wide range of data and content. And so what's interesting is that that content is also being generated and requires some moderation as well. Then there's the conversational scenarios, right? That is also generating a lot of content. The new category that we are seeing is augmented reality. So if you pick up any VR or AR device today and look for public content, you'll find that content is already being generated and created pretty rapidly. And of course, it comes in all forms and shapes: text, images, videos, and of course, speech. And so in other words, it's all around us. So the other part is, of course, that content is being created at a massive scale. And so the scale, I mean, not just the numbers, because of course we know that billions of users, are online today, and quintillion bytes of data are being created daily. But it's really what happens, what are the factors or the dimensions that come into play when we talk about content moderation. So first is the geopolitical sensitivities that we bring into the discussions, right, based on where we live and work and so on. Then there is the cultural nuances that come into play, and we're all coming from diverse backgrounds and trying to make sense and contribute and react to the content online. And of course, the evolving demographics. So now today you have teens, kids, and then the older age groups all contributing, creating and exposing to content and reacting to it. And of course, we all bring our respective passions and so on. And then finally, I think the most interesting part is that everything changes each day, right? So if you took a snapshot today of the state of content today on the online, and then you take it forward tomorrow, everything would have changed simply because something big that came up, or things are changing every day, and that changes the context in which you need to look at your content. So then what's the problem if all of this is going well and we have big content all around us? Well, the problem is that you're running into bad actors. There are bad actors everywhere. And if you have roughly 4 billion users online all over the world, even a small percentage can add up to a lot of people doing bad stuff online, posting illegal and inappropriate and offensive content online, right? And that adds up to a huge number, which creates a very high risk to your brand, your customers, your users. And what's interesting is, what we are seeing is that this risk is a threat is regardless of your size and scale of your applications or systems. So even small companies, whether you're a small startup growing, or whether you're a growing mid-sized company or a large-scale company, doesn't matter. These people are targeting everyone. And also, it doesn't matter where your application is. If it's a B2B application, it still gets targeted by these people. And then finally, I think what's happening is as companies are trying to use AI to generate new insights and gain competitive advantages, what you find is that because of this bad content or the noise sitting in this content, you're not able to maximize your potential as you would like to be, right? So it's a hard problem to crack. And of course, it's at a massive scale. This is going on. So what are the challenges if you try to solve this problem as a business from your point of view, right? As a business trying to solve this for your applications, the number one problem is that traditional human moderation just cannot keep up. We have heard the news stories about companies hiring tens of thousands of human moderators worldwide, which still cannot keep up. And then if you want to apply AI, well, that requires significant investments, not just to start off with, but to keep it up and keep pace with the changing scenarios over time. If you have a point solution working in-house, using, let's say, patterns, rules, and databases, and maybe some ML and AI mixed in, well, that's good enough for what you have today. But as your business grows and your markets change and your customers change, it's just hard to scale them out. Now, there are some awesome technologies and products and companies out there who are taking slices of this broad problem space and trying to attack specific problems, and they're doing an awesome job at it. But as a business, looking at your content moderation space, what your the downside is that you have to go and combine these technologies together and then still try to get a seamless experience for your users. And finally, and most importantly, the problem is that if you bring in out-of-the-box built-in AI and models or apply a solution from outside into your application, there's always a gap because those models were trained based on data of those companies and so on. And so what you'll realize is there's always a gap between your content characteristics and what these models are built for. And so then the question is, well, does your vendor, does the platform provide ways to work around it to fix the gap by implementing customization features on top of the base models, right? So these are the challenges that we see from a content moderation perspective. So then what should a good solution look like? I guess that was a question we face every day here. And from our point of view, any content moderation solution, just like a first-class line of business application, should be simple to understand and acquire. It should be easy to integrate into your line of business applications. And then secondly, it should be flexible for your scenarios that you are trying to address, whether it's text, image, or videos, or actual use cases, right? Secondly, as I mentioned, it should be customizable for your needs in terms of not just the product capabilities, but also the AI models and the filters themselves. Secondly, as a content moderation solution, we believe that we're augmenting, not replacing human moderators. AI is still not at a place where it can totally replace humans, especially for nuanced cases such as content moderation, some of the difficult cases that you encounter in moderation today. And so therefore, just like any application, just like you would care about your users, we care about these content moderators who would be using our systems and tools, and we care about their health and wellness. And so is the solution focuses on that aspect as well. So having, we talked about the problem space, we talked about challenges, and then we talked about the design approaches, how we think about the product. Let's take a look and kind of a quick high-level overview of what the content moderator platform offers, or at least how we look at our product today. Right. So at the bottommost layer are what we call the moderation APIs. These are actually REST APIs that you can call from your application to scan for illegal content, for inappropriate content within image, text, and videos. Right. So illegal content, an example is the CSAM, which stands for Child Sexual Abuse Material. And this is actually, this is a technology that Microsoft donated and built to the world, and pretty much everywhere, all agencies, companies, and a lot of companies worldwide are using this technology. And we have made it pretty easy to use these and embed these technologies into your application. So there is really no excuse not to start with at least scanning for the illegal content. And then it comes the inappropriate or offensive or the explicit content up there. And for that, we go across image, text, and videos. The other part is, remember, we said our review tool, our platform works, is extensible and flexible. And so that means you're not just tied to our moderation APIs, but you can also use other cognitive services or bring your own service or bring your own model, and you're still able to leverage the overall solution that we offer, right? So the second layer on top of the moderation APIs is the review API. Remember we talked about the human in the loop aspect of content moderator, and so the review API acts as the bridge between the scanning or the models underneath and the human in the loop review UI at the top. And so what that does is two things. Our customers generally fall into two categories. Some businesses want to have a complete seamless one-step approach where they submit the content, we do the scanning, and then based on their content policies that they encode using workflows, the reviews get created, and their human moderators, who could be an outsourced agency or their own team, is actually taking the final decisions. The other the other set of customers would probably just want to use the moderation APIs, or they want to bring in their APIs and their models and still be able to leverage our review tool. And that's where the review API helps. And just as I said earlier, we believe the combination of APIs or the machine and humans gives you the best results, and that's what the output of the block indicates. Thank you, Seth. So, you've been watching Seth in the morning sessions, and when Seth was prepping us for this event, he said, imagine you are at a virtual conference. So that's what I'm thinking, I can probably see some of you from your webcams. I'm just kidding. But I think, so coming back to our presentation and deck here, this slide is talking about how the APIs work in general. And so think of this as a template, and this structure goes across images, text, and videos. At a very high level, each API has a URL and an endpoint that you call. Secondly, it has an API key, that is your credentials to call these APIs, and then you will submit some content to these APIs, such as your image, text, and video, and then certain input-specific settings. So if you're scanning text, you're looking for maybe PII or offensiveness of the text, right? If you're scanning images, you're looking for maybe explicitness or suggestiveness of the images. And the output in all cases generally is a JSON or a text formatted output response that contains certain labels, scores, and other insights that now you can process within your application. So at this point, let's kind of switch to a small quick demo of our image moderation API. And the keyword here is simple, because we do want to make it as easy as possible for you to ingest these APIs into your application. So let me switch to my Visual Studio here. And so this is the image moderation's code sample. It's a console app. And the code is really simple. All it's doing is taking an image, or actually taking an image and scanning, calling our APIs right here. And so that's the key, that's the API, and then running it. So let me just run this application, and then we'll look at the output. Okay. So it moderated one image, and then it saved the response for us to take a look at. So let's go ahead and take a look at the output here. And just to tell you what was the image, I guess the image was this one, right? And then the second image was this one. And so by looking at those images, you can probably guess what the outputs will be. So in the first case, the RACI score was kind of high, and therefore it was flagged as true because of the people who were having a good time in the lake. Now, from a content moderation point of view, you might say that image was fine by us, and that's perfectly okay. And so you could take that decision on the review side of things. On the second output, you will notice that the RACI scores and both the adult scores were low, and so therefore the image was passed without any problem. And the scores are in the range of 0 to 1. And so here your automated systems can take a decision and say, well, the score is really low, we are pretty confident, so let it go through. So that was a quick example of image moderation. Now let me switch back to our slide here, and now let's move on to the text moderation. So again, the idea is, the keyword is simple in the sense that think of this as really your function in the cloud, right? And that you're calling and you're getting a response back, and that's the basic premise here. So let me now switch and close these. Let me close these windows here. So we switch to our text moderation sample. And so let me, here what we're doing is, let me show you the text that we are moderating. This is the text that we are moderating here. Okay. And so let's run this. So now if you go back and take a look at the output, there are a couple of things you will notice right away. There was a small typo here that I intentionally added to this text here. And because I had said that please autocorrect it for me, in the autocorrected text that was corrected to the correct spelling. That was one output that we got. The second was, take a look at the PII section here, right? So the PII section contains all the suspected or potential information such as email addresses, phone numbers, and mailing addresses, and so on. And finally, take a look at the classification. This is where the machine learning based intelligent classification of text comes into play. So the category 1 stands for really explicit text, category 2 is racy or suggestive, and category 3 is offensive, which can include elements of hate speech and bullying and all of those categories there. So in this case, you will notice the score was really high, and therefore the review recommended flag was set to true. And the reason that score was high was because of some of this verbiage here in this text here. And the other thing you will notice is that this term was flagged because it was found in our default database across 100+ languages that you do get as a result of subscribing to this API. So it's not, so the insights are coming, this insight from the terms is coming from a huge database of terms across those languages, while this insight is coming from the machine learning based model, which supports English only today, right? And I'll come to some other information later on. But that was the text moderation demo. And as you saw, the code itself, if we again look at the code itself is really simple. All we are doing is, again, calling the API with the text and then telling it to classify, give us PII, and autocorrect is also set to true. Okay, so let's go back to deck here. So imagine, remember normally some of our customers are sending, let's say they are sending hundreds of millions of content units are being scanned all the time. And so the question to your, I guess from your point of view is, what happens to these insights coming in at a very rapid pace, a very high volume? So there are always usually 3 options, right, from this response. One is you either allow your content to go through, especially if there is no violation detected, no policy violation detected, and the scores are all well below thresholds. You either block the content right away if it's a really clear violation of your policies and the scores are above thresholds. But then what happens to those middle borderline nuance cases, right? And so there is the need for someone to review this, and that's where the human moderators come into play. And so either you could be using your existing system or some homegrown tools with your human moderation team. That could be a vendor, an agency, or maybe even in-house. Your online safety team, for example, could be looking at this stuff here. Or we provide the review tool as part of the content moderator product that you can also use with your own team. And so this is the lead-in to talking about the review API and the review tool features that we'll talk about next. Okay. So when we talk about review API, remember in our block diagram we had jobs, reviews, and workflows. And so job operation, I had mentioned then, it's an integrated one-step way for customers to scan the data, scan some content, incorporate their content policies, and then create reviews or take some other action, right? So that's a one-step, all-in-one approach here. And so if we look at this, the way it works is that you're creating a job, passing in your content. The job is starting a moderation process, evaluating your workflow, and then deciding whether to create a review or not. And if the evaluation returns to say yes, create a review based on the scores and the thresholds, it will create a review in a review tool, and it will submit your data back to your API endpoint if it's provided as a callback. Otherwise, it will just stop there. So let's go ahead. And yes, the keyword there is integrated, because this is really a one-step solution to a number of things that are going on at the same time. So now let's go back to our Visual Studio. say yes, close this, and let's take a look at the image job sample here. Okay. Yeah, so let me comment out this part here for now, because we'll come to this later, right? And so what I'm doing is starting an image job, and I'm using a workflow. Remember I said we can, customers can encode policies in workflows that the job operation uses, right? And so let's take a look. Now let's take a look at a review tool here. So this review tool is included as part of your Content Moderator subscription, and there's no extra charge for it. But when you sign up for the APIs in Azure, or you could sign up for the review tool from the homepage itself. So when you come to our homepage and you click on Get Started, you are directed to the review tool landing page, which looks like this, right? And then you sign up, and if you already have an account, then you can sign in. In my case, I'm already signed in. And so let me show you the workflows that we're talking about. So workflow is nothing but really an if then else expression, as we will see, right? So you notice it's an if then else expression. It's a type of an image workflow. That means this processes images. And if this is the designer view, but if I click the JSON tab, you will see the JSON definition. And we also have a workflow object as part of the API. What that means is that you could, in theory, you could type up the workflow as well and submit to the workflow object to create the workflow. But I'll make use of the designer here. So let me expand everything. Okay. And so you'll notice this is a combination. What I'm saying is that please connect to Content Moderator, right? And then if the RACI score is greater than 0, or if an image is matched regardless, right, create a review. So that's our action. Remember, this is the action, and the action I've selected is create a review, and that's my callback endpoint. And what I'm saying is that once you create a review, then highlight the tag R for RACI if is RACI equal to true, right? And so the net effect of this workflow is that all reviews will get created, because all scores are always greater than 0, right, even if they are very low. So what we want to do here is, the goal is create all reviews and then flag or highlight or tag just the RACI image so that it's visible. So let's now go ahead, and this is the workflow that I'm referring to here in this job operation, right? And so again, it's just one API call, literally one API call, and the parameters are the workflow name and the content itself. Okay. So there were 3 images that I created the jobs for, and you will notice 3 jobs got created, 1 for each of the image. So let me exit out and go back to our review image thing. And first let me cancel out these changes so that we haven't saved anything. Okay, so you saw 3 reviews got created, remember, because we said we want all reviews to be created, right? And so this one was flagged as normal because nothing was found. And so as a moderator, I'll submit it. I'll say everything looks good. This image was fine as well, and so I'll submit that as well. And this image was flagged as a RACI. So the RACI tag got highlighted based on our workflow condition, right? Because the RACI score was high, and therefore the RACI was true, and so on. So that's the idea here. So let me submit these so that we empty our queue. Now what we'll do is, again, to demonstrate the workflows and the jobs, let me go back to the workflow again and make a small change, right? And this time, what I'll say is that is RACI equals true. And now what I'm saying is, and I'll just remove this. In fact, I'll make it one condition here. Okay. And now let's run the same code again with no changes. And so again, notice that 3 jobs are created for the 3 images, so nothing changes here, except that when I go back to a review tool and expect to see 3 images, There's only one review that was created for the racy image, because I explicitly said only create the review if the racy score is higher than the threshold, right? And so that's an example of how you can change the workflow and change your policies effectively, and then have the same code running and you can get different results. So that's an idea that I wanted to convey right now. We'll come back to this demo again later as we talk about customization. So remember, we also said there was a review operation as well, and all that the review operation does is it creates reviews. It doesn't scan, doesn't moderate, it just creates reviews. And so if I go back to my sample again, let's run the image review version of it. And all it's doing is it's creating an existing moderation input. So if I expand the sample folder, so remember I said that here it's not moderating it, right? So the assumption is that you're already getting some insights from somewhere else. It could be our APIs or it could be your APIs, doesn't matter, or it could be a different API, but you could still create a review. And so let's go ahead and run this sample here. And so you'll notice the console app says reading image moderation insights, and then it created a review creation request, which is really nothing but a JSON formatted string of key value pairs, and then the review got created. So let's see what was created. So let me go again into image, and sure enough, there was one review that was created using the same image. So that's an example where you can, depending on your use case, you can either just use the review tool with your own content and your own APIs, or you could use everything at once. So that's the flexibility we talk about. The other thing we run into with customers is, customers will always have some custom content sitting in their repositories that they have already flagged before, images and text, and that are specific to their business. And they know either they are good or bad, and so they don't necessarily want or need to classify or check that again. And so for that, we provide something called a feature for custom image scanning. And so the idea here is that you can upload your custom images into a service using our list management API. And then when you call the match image operation, or if you could use the job workflow, which is what we will do in our case, the API will also match it against your custom content as well and give the results. Similarly for custom terms as well, the same idea. We provide a list management API for images and text that you can use to upload your own content that gets matched and text. And this is the workflow which will come into play as I show the demo here. So let me go back and into the sample here and do something else. So first, let's go back into our workflows again, the same workflow, right? And this time I'll change it back to the combination where I'll say racy score greater than 0. So I do want the reviews to be created, or not and the connected output I'll say is match equals true. So whether it's matched to my custom image or whether it's the score is greater than 0, please go ahead and create a review. That's the action specifying here. And then now I'll add a new tag called M, which stands for match in my case. And I'll say that connect again to content moderator, get the isMatch value, and then highlight it if it's true. Okay, so highlight tag M if it's true. Got it. And now we save this workflow. And now let's go back to our image job sample that we had done before. Let me close these just to keep it clean. And so this is our image job sample. And recall this code that we ran before, right? But this time I'll also do this. I'll uncomment this code out. Okay, and so what's going on here is we are doing a custom terms matching and a custom image matching. And there are two workflows coming into play. The text match reviews is being used for the text, and the image match reviews is using for the image. So let's go ahead and run this. And so you'll notice the 3 jobs for the 3 images, and then for the text there was this moderation job that was created. So let's exit and now take a look at our reviews again. So we see three reviews getting created, but notice this one. So this was my custom image. Remember, this was not being flagged before, but I had saved it into my list APIs. And so this time when it got, because I did say that, highlight the tag M if it was matched, it got matched to my custom image that I had uploaded into these APIs. And so I'll say, go ahead, submit. And these are the other two images that we have been looking at here. Now let's take a look at the text thing. Okay. So here what's interesting is, this is the text review screen, just like we have been looking at the image reviews. And notice the word Microsoft was highlighted here. And the reason it was highlighted was because I had added my custom term into my, my list, custom list of terms. And that also got matched by this API here. And that's an example of how the custom matching for terms and lists can be combined with what we have in-house. And so let's go back to our deck here, and let's quick time check. And the other interesting part is, I've been saying that you can use the review tool and the solution with not just moderation APIs, but with other cognitive APIs and tools, and bring your own service too. And so this is an example where, let's say you were using the custom vision service that Kelly today earlier in the morning talked about, right? And so let's say you signed up, you wanted a custom classifier for recognizing something, and so you built a custom classifier. Now you have the endpoint, you're happy with it, the performance, you got the endpoint, and now you want to scan your content through those custom vision classifiers. And depending on the scores or your policies, you want to review it in the review tool that we have been looking at. In other words, you're using the content moderator review tool to review content coming or insights from anywhere, in this case, custom vision. So think of the e-commerce or the marketplace scenario where you have both parties or one parties or your suppliers uploading ton of product catalog images, and you want to recognize them using custom vision models and then review them within a tool. And that's the effect that you can achieve here. So in this case, what happens is that you call the custom vision service, and then you call the review operation, and what that does is it will create a review in our review tool, right? And so that's the output you get. On the other hand, you can take the scenario further. In fact, based on the human decisions that are being made in the review tool, you could now call custom vision's training API based on the decisions if the humans disagree with the custom vision flag coming from the service. Right, you can use that data that we send to you through the callback endpoints to start a training process. So imagine this process going on an ongoing basis, where the idea is that you start with a base model, then you add your own custom layer on that to make it better fit your business. And then over time, as your content changes, characteristics or your business changes, you're still able to keep up to date all within the same review and scanning process. So that's the scenario here. And so just to demonstrate part of this example here, let me go back to my Visual Studio again. And this time we'll bring up the image review sample again here, right? And so you will notice that this was commented out. Let me comment it out here. And so what I've done as a prerequisite to this sample, what I did earlier was I went to the custom vision service, right? And think of this way, I'm a toy marketplace, or I sell a lot of things, and I want a custom classifier to detect soft toys from the images that are pouring in. And so by adding 3, 4, 5, 9 images, I got a reasonably okay soft toy classifier, right, so to speak. And so now I've got the endpoints from here, from this service, and I'm trying to use this in my application here. So let's take a look at the create custom vision function and see what's going on. And so what I'm doing here is I'm creating these key value pairs in preparation to take the tags from the custom vision service, and then I am calling the custom vision service. So let's take a look at the code. And again, this is where I'm calling the custom vision service here, right? If it's success, then get the tags, which I'm extracting here, and then saving it in this key value pair. And the tags that I'm getting is the T, or the toy is the tag name that I'm looking for here, right? And so if I go back to my code, you will notice that's what I'm checking for, and I assign a shortcode T, which by the way, not coincidentally, matches the tag in the review tool that I was set up. So notice in the tag screen that I shown earlier, there's a T, is toy and toy. So this is what I configured before to make this all work, but it's a really minimal work, right? And so if I go back now to my sample, and what's happening is if this name is found, then I assign the shortcode and I set it to true right here. So if the probability is greater than 0.5, I send the value as true and send it to the review tool. So let's run this application right now, this console app, and see what happens. And yes, I'm using a test image for this, and so that image has not been part of the training data set there. It's a new image. And so now what's happening is the console app is calling the custom vision service. Apparently it's done. So let's go back and check our review image screen. And sure enough, so this was the test image, which is not in this data set anywhere, right? And so sure enough, that review was created. You'll notice the true, the T tag, and the T tag was highlighted here, right? Why? Because because the JSON that I created, I made sure that it was true, and the application, the review tool recognized the tags, and therefore it highlighted the tag. And that's an example of how you can combine multiple services and still use them with the review process and the tools. Okay, so now let's see. So we have about 9 minutes left. The other feature I wanted to cover, and we won't do a demo of this in the interest of time, but what I wanted to share was that we also have video moderation as well, right? So let me actually go back. In fact, I should be able to do this. So let me go back to a review tool here. And so the one nice thing is that if you sign up for the review tool anytime, you can come to the try options here, and you can try out image, text, and video without having to write any code. For example, in try image, we do provide you sample images, or you can upload your own images and try to see the behavior there. If you click on try text, you can copy the sample text here, and you can try that, submitting that, and you will see the same screens that I've been showing you. But let's take a look at the video screens here. And so what we have done is, to help you understand the video review experience, we pre-moderated a few videos, and these are Microsoft product videos, and they are available to you for selection. So let's say if I select these 3 videos here, and I say submit. So what's happening is the review tool is now creating a queue of this content, right? And so the reviews are ready. So let's go ahead and see what this experience looks like. Right, so this is Satya interview here. The interesting part here is that you can either look at the video player view, or you can look at the keyframes view. And the other part is, here is the transcript here. Right, so what happened was, using the Media Indexer API or the video indexes, the AMS Azure Media Services APIs, you can convert the speech to text, and the text gets shown here as a transcript. It's all synced with the video, and somebody can be reviewing both the video as well as the transcript. What this tool supports is not just labeling at the video level. So imagine if it was a startup who really don't care about the individual keyframes or the content within the video from their point of view. As long as the video contains something objectionable, they are happy blocking the entire video itself. And so in that case, you are really labeling the actual video tags here. Now let me pause this. But let's say I was more interested in the editing in the individual frames, and I could label these frames as well individually, or I could select multiple frames and do the moderation at that level here. Right, and say OK. And that's kind of in roughly the example of how video review works. To kind of get the video into the review tool in the first place, though, you'll have to write some code, do the moderation, and generate and give all these keyframes in the video data to the review tool through our review API, and that's where the API comes in handy. So for example, if I go back to the slide, you'll find these articles here and so let me actually click on this. And so if you go to our documentation site, you'll find a complete sample with source code on GitHub on how to moderate videos, right? And then if I go back and click on these, you will find complete code samples on how to create video reviews. So in this case, this is a complete code sample creating video reviews, and then here is how we show how to create video transcript using the .NET SDK of Content Moderator. And so the code is on GitHub, and so go ahead and try it out, and please contact us if you have any questions. So let me go back to our demo, as I see 5 minutes are left. And the other part is the fastest way to get started with Moderator is also through Flow, by the way, and this is a very popular way. If you want to build a POC for your team or for your business, go to flow.microsoft.com, and you will find a Content Moderator connector as well as some pre-built templates that you can get started off. So this is probably the easiest way to get started. You'll find some pre-moderated templates here that you can get started with and customize them, and of course you can build your own templates as well. So just to recap the entire session, if you are doing any of this today, which is asking your users and partners to create content either within or outside your network, building social platforms, or auto-generating content from your AI systems or conversational interfaces, or trying out new content types and experiences, or even labeling large volumes of data. So you already have the content and you're labeling it now. You can use the Content Moderator review tool to have an end-to-end process to do that as well. And of course, you can get started using our website, which has exhaustive documentation and content. And of course, click on the Get Started button, as we saw, and you can sign up for the review tool yourself. And some time for Q&A, and I can certainly see some questions coming up here. But feel free, so if content is king, then what is content moderation? Of course, it's the king's castle, right, where it keeps the king safe. So the question is, where can I get a list of languages you currently support, and what languages are coming soon? So let's see. Let me go back to our documentation here. Concepts, text moderation, right, and there is the supported languages section here under resources. That's where you will find all the languages supported by the profanity filtering or the term-based filtering. Our machine learning feature supports English only right now, as this article says here, right? So classification. So this supports English only. And in terms of what languages coming soon, so languages have supporting multiple other languages definitely on our roadmap. I don't have a timeline yet, but we are definitely looking to support all the popular high priority languages in the coming next 12 months for sure. Okay. Yep. So thank you very much for watching this session today. Please give us your feedback, and hopefully you'll connect soon. Thanks and bye.